Big news. The government is finally reopening. After weeks of shutdown, the Senate just passed a new bill to bring workers back and pay them again. But what does this mean for you? Will your paycheck, healthcare, or benefits change? And is this really the end of the shutdown or just another short break before the next fight? Stay with me. Here's what you need to know in 30 seconds. If you've been watching the news lately, you've probably heard a lot of talk about the government shutdown and what's happening in the Senate. Maybe you've seen headlines about a new bill. But if you're not sure what it actually means for you in your daily life, don't worry. Today, we're breaking down everything in simple terms that make sense. So stick around as we dive into what just happened with the government reopening and how this new Senate bill could affect your wallet, your job, and your future. Let's start with the basics, because honestly, understanding government stuff can feel like learning a foreign language sometimes. So what exactly happened? Well, the US government basically ran out of money because Congress couldn't agree on a budget. When that happens, the government has to shut down, which sounds dramatic and complicated, but essentially it means that many government services stop running. We're talking about national parks closing, people who work for the government not getting paychecks, and a lot of uncertainty all around. It's not something that happens often, but when it does, it affects millions of people. Now, after weeks of disagreement and debate, the Senate finally came together and passed a new bill to reopen the government. This bill is basically like a reset button that gets the government back up and running. But here's the thing that matters to you. This bill isn't just about reopening doors and getting government workers back to their jobs. It also includes a bunch of other stuff that will have real consequences for regular people like us. That's why we're here to break it down for you. First, let's talk about what happens to government workers. If you work for the federal government or you know someone who does, this is directly relevant to you. During the shutdown, these workers either weren't working or were working without getting paid. Can you imagine going to work every day but not getting a paycheck? That's what happened to hundreds of thousands of people. The new bill makes sure that all these workers get paid and get back to work right away. But here's what's interesting. They'll also get back pay, which means they'll get paid for all the time they worked without getting money. This is good news if you're one of those workers, but it also means the government is spending money to catch up. Let's move on to something that affects pretty much everyone: taxes. One part of the new bill deals with taxes, and this is important stuff. The bill extends something called the Enhanced Child Tax Credit for another year. Now, if you have kids, you might be familiar with this. Basically, the government gives families money back at tax time or throughout the year to help with the costs of raising children. This bill keeps that going, which is great news for families who are worried about losing that support. If you've been counting on that extra money to help pay for school supplies, childcare, or other family expenses, you can keep counting on it. But taxes aren't the only financial thing in the bill. There's also stuff about Medicare and healthcare in there. Specifically, the bill addresses something called Medicare payment rates. Without getting too technical, basically the bill makes sure that doctors and hospitals who treat Medicare patients still get paid fairly. If this didn't happen, some doctors might stop accepting Medicare patients, which would be bad news for seniors and people with disabilities who rely on Medicare. So this part of the bill is all about making sure that the healthcare system stays stable and that people can still see their doctors. Now let's talk about something else that's in the bill: funding for specific projects and programs. When Congress passes a budget bill, it's not just one thing. It's more like a giant package that includes money for hundreds of different things the government does. The new bill includes funding for things like border security, disaster relief for areas that have been hit by hurricanes or floods, and money for various government agencies to keep running. This might not seem personal, but it actually is. If your area gets hit by a natural disaster, you want to know that there's funding available to help communities recover. If you live near the border, you might care about security funding. These programs affect real people in real ways. Let's dig deeper into one thing that has been getting a lot of attention: the debt ceiling. Okay, this sounds boring, but stick with me because it's actually important. The debt ceiling is basically a legal limit on how much money the federal government can borrow. When the government spends more money than it brings in through taxes, it has to borrow money, kind of like how you might borrow money from a bank to buy a house. The problem is we keep hitting that ceiling, and then Congress has to vote to raise it so the government can keep paying its bills. The new bill includes a temporary increase to the debt ceiling, which basically buys the government more time to figure out its finances. This matters to you because if the government defaults on its debt, which means it can't pay back the money it borrowed, it could cause a financial crisis. Your savings, your job, even the value of your home could be affected. So this part of the bill, while not flashy, is pretty important for keeping the economy stable. Here's another part that might affect you: veterans' benefits. The bill includes provisions to make sure that veterans continue to receive the benefits they've earned. If you're a veteran or you have family members who are, this means your benefits won't be interrupted. This includes disability payments, healthcare, and other support services. Veterans have sacrificed a lot for their country, so making sure they're taken care of is something that matters to a lot of people. Now, you might be wondering, what does this mean for the regular person on the street? Well, if you use national parks, they reopen. If you need to get a passport or visit a government office for anything, those services come back online. If you work for a contractor that deals with the government, your company can get back to work. All of these things cascade down to affect regular life for millions of people. But here's something really important to understand. While this bill reopens the government, it doesn't solve all the problems. Congress still needs to figure out a longer-term budget. This bill is basically a temporary fix that gets us through the next few months or so. In the future, Congress will need to pass another bill that actually addresses the deeper issues of government spending and income. So while this is good news for getting things back on track right now, we'll probably have similar conversations in the future. Let's talk about the political side of this for a second, because that actually matters for understanding how bills like this get passed. Both Democrats and Republicans agreed on this bill, which means it was a compromise. Nobody got everything they wanted, but both sides decided it was better to reopen the government than to keep it shut down. That's actually how democracy is supposed to work, even if it doesn't always feel that way. Here's something else worth thinking about: the economy. When the government shuts down, the economy can take a hit. Businesses don't know if government contracts will go through. Workers don't know if they'll get paid. Consumers get nervous about spending money. All of this uncertainty can slow down economic growth. By getting the government back open, the bill helps restore some confidence in the economy. This means businesses can start making plans again, workers can pay their bills, and the economy can get back to normal. So to wrap everything up, the new Senate bill that reopens the government is good news for a lot of people. Government workers get back to work and get paid. Services come back online. The economy can start moving forward again. Programs that people depend on get funded. Veterans, seniors, families with kids, and people who use government services all benefit. But at the same time, this bill is a temporary fix. It's not solving the deeper problems that keep causing these shutdowns. The real question is what happens next. Will Congress learn from this and find better ways to work together? Will they pass a longer-term budget that doesn't require emergency bills every few months? Or will we keep having these same arguments and shutdowns over and over? That's something that we'll have to wait and see. Thanks so much for watching. Drop a comment down below and let me know what part of this bill affects you the most, or if you have questions about anything we covered.